Hi, I'm Franz Fair from Skyline, and we power the National Cyber League. The NCL is a great tool to help the success of your students as they enter the cyber workforce, and we're here to help bridge the gap from curriculum to careers. Today, I'm going to be walking you through an overview of what it means to be a faculty coach within the NCL. Hopefully, give you that overview, answer a lot of the frequently asked questions so that you'll be ready to start the season with your students. So an overview of how the NCL works. The NCL helps build industry skills and connect students to career opportunities. And so educators from high schools, 2-year institutions, 4-year institutions, training programs, apprenticeship programs, they all use the NCL competition to easily provide their students with hands-on exercises. And these exercises are going to represent real-world cybersecurity tasks and help your students reinforce their learning and give them those practical experiences that they can share with an employer when applying for internships and jobs. And so within your classes, you're going to be teaching them about the concepts. Maybe you're teaching them about, hey, this is how a web application attack works. This is a SQL injection. This is command injection through query parameters. So you're going to be teaching them those concepts, but what's really helpful with the NCL is that they get the hands-on practice, and so they can actually, for example, conduct an audit on a website, identifying those vulnerabilities, or maybe they're looking at the logs of a web server that was compromised using those attacks and have to identify how those servers were compromised. And this is really important for two reasons. One, it really reinforces their learning and makes sure that they're really gaining the most from your classes. And the second component to that is what we all care about for our student success, which is when they are going into the industry, when they're going into that interview for an internship or a job, they're going to be asked that question, well, what do you know about being a SOC analyst or being a pen tester? And if their response is, well, I took a class on this, it's probably not going to fly. It's probably not going to help set them apart and help them land that job. And so the real value of NCL is the fact that those students, when they go to those interviews, they can say, well, I actually conducted an audit on a web application to find a SQL injection vulnerability, or I analyzed log files for indicators of compromise. I was able to identify the hacker. I was able to use these tools. And this is my process for going through that. And so being able to speak about their thought process, that's what's going to really help impress the employer and help your student actually get their foot in the door and actually get into the cybersecurity industry. So that is all on the kind of developing skill side and helping set themselves up for success when they're going for a job. But NCL goes a little bit further than that as well. In addition to these exercises, we also help students directly connect with employers within the NCL ecosystem. And so we run online virtual interactive activities where students will get the opportunity to meet employers to help them again connect that bridge, from curriculum to careers so that they can launch their career successfully and really kind of be on their way after they graduate from your program. And so I gave you a little bit of a sneak peek on what NCL is, but effectively, we are a cybersecurity competition. We have multiple components to that competition. And this is kind of screenshots of what I was describing and the experience that students will see. So on the left side screenshot here, you can see this is the challenge interface that you or your students would be looking at when you're going through the NCL. And what you can see are these windows here on the left side. There's a window of a packet capture, and then on the right side, we've got a Linux terminal and we've got a little chat box there. And so when students are presented with these scenarios, they're going to be given some sort of artifact. In this case, it's a packet capture and a task. And so that task might be, in this case, it's to obtain the password for a wireless network. And so they have to use the command line there. They have to use Kali Linux with aircrack and crack the password there. And then they can solve that challenge. They can get credit for that. And on the right side screenshot, this is where we have the reporting directly within the platform. And so what we can do is provide your students with in-depth analysis of their skills, not just what you got right and what you got wrong, but also how do you compare to your peers? And this is anonymized within our aggregate reporting, or your students can also have the ability to use a pseudonym because we do have a leaderboard, but there is the quick way here of being able to pinpoint, here are my strengths, here are my areas for improvement, and that can help them plot a path and say, okay, maybe I want to focus on these specific skill sets. And I'm going to dive a little bit into this a little bit more in a couple of slides. And so when students are entering in the season, they're going to be encountering four different components of the season. An NCL season typically spans about 3 months. The gymnasium is the component of the season that is open throughout the entire duration. And so from the beginning of registration all the way even past the games, the gym is available. And this is a practice environment that includes guides, both written and video guides of past challenges to help players prepare for the competition. And so this is really where the learning comes in with kind of the no pressure environment. Now, following the opening of the gym, typically we have about a month before the practice game. Now, the practice game, similar to the gym, this is for practice, but now you don't have those written guides that will get you straight to the answer. And so this will give your students that practice of going through and trying to solve these challenges without that help, but it's still a practice environment. It's not competitive, just an easy way to just get people into it. And with the practice game, students are allowed to collaborate with each other. And so if you have students who are like, oh, I'm not sure how this works, they can ask each other questions, they can help each other out. Following the practice game, and the practice game is about a one week long event, we have the individual game. The individual game is a weekend long event. It starts Fridays at 1 p.m. It goes all the way 1 p.m. Eastern. It goes all the way to Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And during the individual game, it's like the practice game, except you're not allowed to get any help. So the students are going to be working entirely by themselves to solve as many challenges as they can. And this is really important that you recognize that the individual game is truly individual. So the practice game here, the students can work with each other. Individual game, because this one is the competitive event, because we generate these reports that students will then use as evidence when they're applying for a job and showing an employer, we want to maintain the competitive integrity of the individual game. And so that means the students cannot work with each other during the game. They can't ask you for help. Now, after the game, they can. And so as soon as the game's over, they can ask you for help. They can say, hey, how did you solve this challenge with their friends? That's all fair game after the individual game's over, just not during. And that also extends not just to how do we get the answer, but like what tools do you use or some kind of hints or suggestions. We want to make sure that the competitive integrity there is maintained. Now, the team game is 2 weeks after the individual game. And in the team game, the students get to work in teams of up to 7. So I know that the individual game is tough because students love working with each other and there's a lot of value there. And so that's why we have both an individual and a team game. And here in the team game, students can compete in teams of up to 7. They can solve as many challenges as they can within that duration. They are allowed to collaborate within their teams and their progress will be shared. So as one student answers a question, that will get marked as correct for everyone else in real time. And there's no restrictions on them collaborating with each other within the same team. Now, schools may have multiple different teams, and if your school has multiple different teams, between different teams, those students are not allowed to collaborate. So within the same team, it's okay, but between different teams, not okay. And so you can kind of mix and match and figure out what's going to be the best way to balance out your teams. Maybe you want to balance it out and have we've seen basically schools do like a varsity team and a JV team. We've also seen schools do a big mix where they have some more senior players within their team as well as some more junior players so that they kind of have a ability for the more experienced students to teach the more junior students. You can set it up however you want. It's all up to you. And again, you have a limited number of teams per school, and there's no minimum. So you can no minimum number of people you have to have on a team. And so you can have a team of 1, you can have a team of 2, anything up to 7. So that's the team game, and that's the end of the season. Now, throughout the season, like I mentioned, the gym is available. So even after the games, your students can access the gymnasium to practice. Maybe they missed something during the actual games and they want to learn more about that topic. They can just pop right back into the gym and learn about it if it's in there. Now, these are the topics that are covered within NCL. I'm not going to go too in depth with these. It's very broad in terms of what we cover. The idea here being that students can work on any challenge that they like. They can jump between different categories. They can do them in any order. And so no matter what type of club or class and whatever you're teaching your students, there should be something here that is relevant. And so what you can do is you can instruct your students to focus on specific topics if those are what's more relevant to your school, and they can avoid entirely, if they want, specific topics. And so we've got open source intelligence, log analysis, network traffic analysis, cryptography, scanning, forensics, password cracking, enumeration exploitation, and web application security. And so within those 9 different categories, we're covering both offensive, defensive, those forensic skills. There's a huge wide range here. And this is really helpful for making sure that there's good coverage within whatever you might be teaching, as well as the fact that a lot of students find value in being able to understand what is out there, like what types of cybersecurity work am I interested in, and NCL can help them build kind of like their career pathway based on their interests and what they might have natural strengths in. So that's the whole wide range. Again, it is very comprehensive, and we expect that most students, especially if they're coming in as a freshman or as a sophomore, they're not going to have expertise in all of these skill sets, and that's perfectly okay. And that's something that we try to stress with the students 100% of the time is we have a lot of different challenges, a lot of different topics, a lot of different difficulty levels. This is a competition and not a standardized test. So if you're coming in expecting to get like a A, B, or C grade, that's not realistic. We try to make sure, and we highly encourage you as well, to set expectations properly with your students. The average score for most beginners going into NCL is about a 33%. And the reason for that is that we have 30, like about a third of our content easy, about a third medium, and about a third hard. And so when we set it up like that, of course, a lot of the beginners are mostly getting that beginner content. They might get some of the intermediate, maybe a few of the hard challenges in there. But it's really important to set these expectations properly, because NCL serves such a wide demographic of skills. We might have people who are in master's programs who've done a lot of cybersecurity before, and they might be focused on that really hard content, and we need to be able to challenge them still, as well as the students in high school and the freshmen and the sophomores who are just getting their toes in the water there. We need to have easier content for them. And so what we highly recommend to set expectations properly is to encourage your students to set personal goals. So instead of saying, hey, try to get an like an A in 90% and 80% or 70%, set a goal that is tailored to them personally. And so maybe you have students who they don't know what they want to do with their career yet. Maybe their goal might be solve one challenge from every single category. And that's a good, realistic first goal for a beginner. Maybe they are focused on a specific career. Maybe you're teaching a class like a networks class. Maybe your challenge might be try to get half of the points in network traffic analysis, for example. Or if they want to be a pen tester for web applications, web application security might be a better target for that. But having these personalized goals that are going to be tailored to their level of experience is going to be very important, because if students are coming in with the wrong expectations, we see that can discourage them from continuing, and we want to make sure that they're set up for success. So I really want to stress this with you all to help make sure that your students are setting their expectations properly. If you're also including NCL as part of a grade, make sure that you have the right expectations as well, because it is not realistic for a majority of students to get kind of like a C or higher grade within NCL, because it's not a standardized test. It's really a wide range of different skills. And so if you're setting those expectations, especially for a more 100, 200 level class, your students might feel intimidated by that. And so generally, when we look at, grades within NCL incorporating into the classroom, we recommend that faculty look at some sort of participation grade, maybe also have recommended goals that your students can set. Maybe, like I suggested, one question from every single category, maybe a certain, 33%, 50% of the challenges or the points within a specific category. That might be a more realistic expectation. Or we also see a lot of faculty grade on a curve as well. But just keep that in mind, because this is the part that is really important for the success of your students, is those expectations and making sure that they're not getting intimidated by the wide range of content within NCL. Now, I want to move on to the scouting report. And so this is the main takeaway that your students are going to get once they complete NCL. So it's a great experience. It's something they can talk about, but the scouting report is a PDF document that they will get for participating in the individual game and the team game. They'll get a separate PDF for each one of those. And this is something that they can provide as evidence when they go to an employer and they apply for an internship or a job. And so what you can see here is that it will actually break down into the specific topics within NCL. And in this case, we're looking at log analysis. And you can see not just their points, but their ranking, their percentile. You can also see the specific tasks that they performed down here as well. And on the right side, you can see the work roles, the different types of careers they might want to consider if they're interested in this topic. And so this scouting report is extremely powerful because when they're applying for a job, and they don't have work experience on their resume, what they can do is they can list their kind of accolades from NCL. Maybe they can say, hey, this is how I scored, and these are the skills that I developed or the skills I demonstrated during NCL. They can put that as like experience on their resume, and then they can hyperlink to this document. We have a hosted version of this on our site as well as the PDF. And so your students, they can email this PDF to recruiters, they can upload it. Sometimes it works better because recruiters don't like getting inundated with all these extra documents at the point of first contact. They can just include a hyperlink to their full scouting report on their resume. And that's a great way to get the conversation started and allow your students to showcase their capabilities, their skills to an employer during the hiring process. And then last thing before I jump into the actual platform, this is who plays NCL. I'm going to move myself over here. Now we have links to these on the website, but we see about 15,000 students per year all across the US who participate in NCL. And you can see the breakdowns here. We got high school students, we got community college students, we got universities all across the US. And so really what I want to demonstrate here is the fact that NCL is for everyone. It's not for people who are already very experienced. I know you have the term competition, but within the season we call them the games, individual game, team game. It's really more about students being able to practice their skills in this kind of like friendly competition environment. That's a way to kind of encourage them and get them excited. And so even if they are not kind of tippy top, they feel super confident in their ability, going through NCL, making sure that they have those right expectations set, they can start developing their confidence because they will start solving different cybersecurity challenges and they will say, oh, I can do these things. That all is dependent on making sure that they're having the right expectations set. But I just wanted to show here that we have a wide range of skill levels and participants within the NCL. All right, so let's move on to some of the more tactile things about getting set up within NCL. So I have on my screen right now the registration page for NCL. And so you can get to this by going to nationalcyberleague.org, and then there'll be a button on the homepage there for you to register. That will take you to this page. If you don't already have a Cyber Skyline account, you'll be asked to create one. And from here, I can see two registration options. I've got my student registration option and my faculty registration option. I'm going to go and click on the faculty coach registration option. Now from here, I'm going to fill in my information. And so I'll do this rather quickly. And I'm just going to just fill in some information. Oops. All right. And then when you are signing up for your coach registration, there will be these two checkboxes for our newsletter. The first one is to make sure that you get information when we run live streams and tutorials. Those might be helpful for yourself or for your students. We highly recommend that you share those with your students and encourage them to participate as part of their practice. And then the second one is for our coaches calls, which I will cover briefly, but that is a resource where as a coach, If you have questions about the games, you can go on those live calls and you can ask your questions. And it's also a opportunity to speak to other coaches and share ideas, share things that worked and didn't work as you are preparing for the NCL. And also just building your cybersecurity programs as a whole. Now that I have filled out my demographic information, I have two options. I can either pay for my students as a bulk purchase. So if you're a school that has funding for your students to participate within NCL, you're going to click on this red button. Or if you're going to have your students register for themselves, you're just going to confirm registration and tell them that they should register for themselves. So if I choose the I want to pay for my students option, this will allow you to make a credit card purchase directly from the site. You just put in how many registrations you want to purchase and you fill that all out over there. If you are if you're going to have your students register for themselves, just go tell them to go to the registration page. They'll register for themselves and they'll get situated there just fine. Now, there's something to consider when getting your students to register. For you to be able to see your students within your dashboard and see how they're performing, you will need to be paired with them. And so if you're purchasing the registrations on their behalf, that process will automatically happen when they redeem their codes. And so you can see this little checkbox here that says automatically link my students to my account. I'll just zoom in a little bit more so that's easier to see. That will allow them to redeem the codes, and then as soon as they do that, they will show up on your dashboard and you can see their performance. And I'll dive into that a little bit later. But if they are going to be purchasing registrations on their own, you will need to give them these instructions here using Coach Observation tab from your dashboard. Basically, they are going to register and you're going to give them this link, this invite link. And when they go to that invite link, that will ask them to confirm you as their coach, and that will give consent for them to share the information with you. And so this is really important. You will not automatically see the students from your school unless you're purchasing their registrations or they are completing this process, because we need to make sure that there's consent to share that information with you. Now, if you cannot make a credit card purchase, maybe you need to do a check purchase or you need to use a purchase order, what you can do is I'm just actually going to go to the main registration splash page. If you scroll down a little bit in the for school section here, there's a bulk registration button. And there is a link that will allow you to do purchase orders. And so this is a form that we have. You can fill it out over here and you can put in your request to get a purchase order and we can send you a quote. We can send you an invoice that way. All right. Another thing to realize with purchasing codes is that you can always come back and purchase more codes if you want from the online portal. And if your school is able to authorize funding through a purchase order and you don't want to go through this process every single season, something that you can do with a purchase order is request that those codes are, instead of getting codes for the current season, you can request that as credit for your account. And then that credit for your account can be used indefinitely. It won't expire. Whereas codes, when they are issued, they're only good for the season in which they are issued. And so if you're purchasing registration codes right now, this is fall 2023. If you are purchasing these codes in the fall of 2023, any unused codes you have, they will not work in spring. They're only good for the current season. And so keep that in mind. You can always come back and purchase more codes during the registration period. But if you over purchase, you're not able to roll over those codes until the next season. And if you don't want to figure out exactly, how many exact students do I need, what you can do is put in a request using that purchase order request form that I just showed you, and that will allow you to get a account credit if you let us know that you would like an account credit, and we'll apply that to your account. So when you go to this page, instead of purchasing with a credit card, you can draw from your account credit, and that account credit will never expire. And so instead of saying, hey, I want to buy 100 codes, and maybe you only have like 50 students who participate, you could put in a request for 100 codes worth of account credit, and then maybe you issue 50 of them and then the other 50 roll over, and it makes it a lot easier for you to calculate exactly how many codes you need, and you don't have to get it exactly perfect when you make that request to your finance department. All right. Now I mentioned looking at student performance. On the left side here, you've got your dashboard. And when I go to the dashboard, I can see some toggles. So you will have no students in here from the get-go if you're a new coach. You can toggle between seasons, you can toggle between different classes, and you can toggle between the individual and team-based events, and you'll see your student's name, their performance, and how they ranked. And when the game ends, you'll actually get access to their reports to be able to download those. Now, an important thing to notice, to realize, is that if you're missing a student from this dashboard, it's because of one of two things. Either A, they have not yet registered for the season, or B, they have not given their consent for you to see their performance metrics. And so if that's the case, remind them to register if they have not yet registered, or give them these instructions for the coach observation. You can just copy and paste this, email it to them. And once they go to this link and they hit confirm, that will give the consent so that you can see their information. These are all of the basics right now for you to get started. You've got quick access links up here for actually accessing the games when they start. If you want to follow along, something to note is that faculty members have access to the content, but they will be on ranked. And if you are going to need help getting started, resources, practice resources, there are going to be a couple things to help you out. When you sign up as a coach, you will get 2 emails. One is this email about general NCL resources. We have a community Discord. We do live webinars to help people practice. We have blogs with write-ups, and we have the gym. We highly recommend that you and your students join the Discord. We have what we call the Coaches Corner, which is just an area where coaches can ask each other for help. And after the games, we do a post-game debrief where we walk through how to solve all the different challenges. So we highly recommend that both you and your students join the Discord. Now with coaches in particular, we have a coaching guide, and this is a document that kind of like walks through how a lot of faculty members have been solving some questions with how do I incorporate this into my class, and how do I do grading, all those things. That's available as well. And then we have the coaching calls. You saw the checkbox for that during registration. If you join these, you will be able to ask for help. Before every coaching call, we have open office hours for you to ask your questions, and those happen every single month. So make sure you check that box during registration so you will get notified and invites for those. The last thing that I want to cover is this button here for learn more about NCL resources. We have this nice PDF here with links to everything that you will want to help you out. And this even comes included with a practice schedule. So if you need help getting your students kind of prepared for the games, we've got a week-by-week practice schedule that goes through the practice content within the gym, as well as external resources and tools that they might want to use to help them prepare. So that was an overview of the NCL for coaches. If you have any questions, please send us an email. The email address is ncl@cyberskyline.com, and someone from our team will be happy to help you. And with that, have a great season and good luck out there. We're looking forward to seeing you soon.